Greetings! Now honestly, I'm a little afraid to make this video because I really want to get this one right. Now today I'm going to talk about a topic that I feel like is not talked about enough. I honestly find it very strange how this is not something I have ever seen a video about. Maybe I have not been looking in the correct places, but I want to talk about the terrible influence of music. Now, music has been a wonderful part of my life. Also a pretty terrible part of my life. But in general, I think music is an incredible power source. I do listen to music quite a lot. It has been a big part of my life, and I think it's awesome, considering that there's not many creatures on this planet that can recognize things like rhythm, melody. The birds that is around me right now, they have a sense of melody, but many animals don't actually recognize or understand music. So this is something that applies to humans specifically. Now I'm going to start off by saying I have throughout my life identified myself quite a lot with the music I listen to. When I was a teenager, or well, a very, very young teenager, I listened to pretty basic things girls used to listen to. I wasn't that much into boy bands and stuff, but I listened to pretty basic stuff, mainstream, you could say, like the kind of stuff you would hear on the radio that girls listen to. Then eventually I made a friend that introduced me to rap music, or I guess you could say hip-hop. And I think this was a big downfall in my life. I think the music we listen to, it shows a lot about us. It shows what we are lacking, what we need, our insecurities. Now, I was an insecure teenager back then, and I wanted to feel powerful. And I think this type of music, it made me feel something I hadn't felt before. It made me feel unstoppable. But it was also a really bad influence on my life. Not going to go into details, but I behaved like an idiot. At least that's how I look back on it. The friends I hanged out with, I started to bond with people that liked the similar music to me. And it wasn't a good time. And I'm happy that I have grown away from that now. I don't think we should be too hard on ourselves, especially when we are younger. We are most likely going to look back on the time and think that we were embarrassing. That's a part of growing in life. But I see so many young people that are smart, and I know that they have a kind heart, but then they listen to music that is advertising drugs and partying and all of these artificial things, having a lot of partners or having a lot of money. And especially young people that are very easily influenced, they take inspiration from this. They want to be like their favorite artists. And I have seen so many young people that I know truly at heart is good. They're smart and they could have a very bright future. And I see how the music they listen to affects them. And it makes them want to be gangsters. They want to be like these criminals they're listening to. Now I want to clarify that, especially when it comes to rap music, there is some really good, talented artists that are not a bad influence. I used to listen to a Swedish rapper that wrote really beautiful songs that had a meaningful and important message. So I'm not saying that all rappers or such artists are a bad influence. Some of them want to be a good influence and they try their best. Now, I think some of these artists that make music about drugs, as an example, Some of them do it as like an anti-movement. It's supposed to be against it, but I think it's actually the opposite effect. I think these teenagers especially want to relate to it somehow, and they are more likely to get into drugs and such things. Now, I'm very happy that I never got into drugs, but I still remember wanting to be like these artists that I listened to. Now, on to the next chapter in my life. I was introduced to a person that played me some black metal, and I remember the first time hearing it, I thought this was a joke. There's no way people listen to this. Now, eventually, I watched a movie called Lords of the Chaos. I think that's what it's called. Lords of Chaos. It's about some pretty influential people, or well, inspired by some pretty influential people in the metal community, specifically black metal. Mayhem, Burzum. There is these young people that, how could I say? Well, they became pretty influential in the metal community, or the black metal community specifically. I remember watching this movie. The movie was not the best, but something clicked in me. In some way, I started to understand black metal. And even though I never really got into melodic metal that much, I started to get really interested in the writing, in the messages, in the atmosphere. I became obsessed with atmospheric black metal. Now, there's many different types of metal. I could talk about this for hours. I should make another video about this, but there is different metals with different messages. There's political, religious, and there's melodic and atmospheric, and there's so many different ones, so many different genres. Even when it comes to most music genres, like rap music, for example, then there is a lot of different, how could I say? Different genres, even inside of the genre itself. So I know it's complex. Now, I started to listen to a lot of metal. I dressed like I listened to metal. I used to wear dark makeup. I used to wear band shirts and buy my favorite albums and such things. And I think the reason why I also became super obsessed with metal was because I found myself a home. In some way, the metal community felt like me. It felt like a home to me. The people that listened to similar music, I related to them in a way I hadn't related to people before. My mom even said this to me, how funny it is that the metal concerts tend to have the least problems compared to other concerts. I think because there is a culture of kindness in a sense. Now, once again, there's different types of metal. I have been on some live shows that were very degenerate. I guess these Satan worshippers, alcoholics. Alcoholics is something you will see quite a lot in the metal community, and eventually I kind of stepped away from that community as well, especially as someone that doesn't drink alcohol. It wasn't a really good environment to be in. And I think the word environment is something that stands out to me when I'm talking about this topic. The music we listen to also brings a certain environment. You can see that on the concerts you go to, the people that listen to that type of music. And as I said in the beginning of this video, I think the music we listen to shows something about us. What we're lacking, what do we need, what kind of feelings do we want to experience? When I was young and insecure, I wanted to experience power. I think when I got a bit older, I wanted a community. And metal music gave that to me. And I also was very interested by the poetry of it. There was a lot of artists that, well, I guess, wrote about things that meant something to me, that really touched my heart on like an artistic level. But that's pretty much for my story. Now I have taken some notes for this video that I want to talk about. I think music is an escape for a lot of people. I love sitting in a long bus ride somewhere on the countryside and looking out the window and listening to music and feeling the power of it. I don't know, I think I actually went through most of the notes. I was just looking at my notes here and I think I went through most things I wanted to talk about in this video. So what I wanted to mainly get out in this video is how much power the music industry has, especially on our minds, especially on young people. I think the older we get, the less we define ourselves in the music we listen to. These days I don't really wear band shirts and such things. Now I still like to support my favorite artists, but I can listen to music without dressing like it or doing my makeup like it. So I listen to quite a lot of different music, mainly jazz from the 1950s era. Still quite a lot of metal music, and I love listening to movie and game soundtracks. Those tend to be the playlists I listen to the most, but maybe if I'm at the gym or something, then I like to listen to some powerful music that makes me feel powerful, like I am the king of the world or queen of the world. So it's a very powerful tool. Some people have done studies also on the type of frequencies and such things, how it affects us mentally. Now, I used to be very depressed when I was younger, and looking back, I think, actually I know music was a really big influence on that. It kept me in this loop. It kept me thinking negatively and terribly about the world. And I think when I stopped listening to that kind of music, it changed me as a person, or when I changed the type of music I listen to. Now I want to listen to music that makes me want to be strong, makes me want to be good. Simplified put. So I'm not going to go too much into the darkness of the music industry. There are so much terrible things going on, especially on a Hollywood level. Never been super invested in mainstream music, but I know that if you go to a store, they like to play music that makes you more likely to buy things. That is one thing they do. But the music industry in itself is very, I want to say, evil. Not completely, but there's so much dark things going on in the background. There is a reason a lot of these artists are not maybe doing so well, mentally speaking, and many of them, they overdose and lose their life. You can see it now. Also, fame, of course, has a big play in this. Many people cannot handle fame and hate, and that much attention. It's not usual for people to be commented on by millions of people, so maybe also getting a lot of money could have a play on it, but I feel like there's more to talk about this. There's more to go into about this. I think more people should talk about this. It's not talked about enough. I don't understand why. It's obviously a really big influence on how people behave. As I said, there's these good kids that turn into gangsters because of the music they listen to, and how it affects us mental health-wise. How it keeps us down. It can keep us down. We stay in this loop. And how people define themselves in the music they listen to. People like to find people with similar interests, and of course I love to talk to people that like the same music as me, even though it's not such a big part of my life anymore. But I really would love to hear from you in the comments what you think about this. Is this something we should be concerned about? Some people, once again, I think especially older people, don't define themselves as much with the music they listen to. Younger people do. You can see that pretty strongly. People are looking up to artists And they are their role models. A lot of young people get their role models from the artists they listen to. It's very strange how if someone makes something like a song, then people fall in love with the person that made it and then look up to them. I think that's it for the video. I can't come up with much else to add. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the planet, and I hope to see you in another video.